Hi, and welcome to Be Your Own Best Coach Conversations, where you can learn to accelerate your career with self-leadership skills and habits. I'm Glen Lubbert, one of the co-founders of Be Your Own Best Coach. Once again, I'm here with my colleague and fellow co-founder, Dr. Deborah Teplow. Hi, Deborah.
Hi, Glen.
This is our fourth episode in our procrastination series. Procrastination can jeopardize your productivity, financial stability, health, and even your overall happiness and well-being. Fully a quarter of Americans report suffering from severe procrastination. In this episode, we discuss the anatomy of procrastination. So break down the anatomy of procrastination, Deborah.
Well, everyone knows what procrastination is. It could be zoning out in front of the TV or getting sucked into hours of video games because you feel so overwhelmed by responsibilities. It could be taking numerous breaks instead of focusing and being productive at work because of constant interruptions and the lack of systems or strategies that make your job feel impossible to do. Or it could be resigning yourself to ugly interpersonal interactions because tomorrow is always more attractive than today for confronting coworkers about their behavior that makes the work environment so toxic. And so tasks we put off doing tend to be boring, hard, or even maybe ambiguous, or we don't see them as valuable or rewarding. But here's the question: is that all it takes to make us procrastinate? What's that underlying mechanism that makes procrastination the preferred option, even when faced with something that seems so important to do? Well, the answer is contained in a simple equation developed by Dr. Piers Steel. He's a PhD, a world-renowned authority on the science of motivation and productivity. So motivation to act or procrastinate is a function of four variables: expectancy, value, impulsiveness, and delay.
All right, so that's very interesting. This comes from just four values. Let's break down those four values, and starting with the first one, the expectancy.
Okay, well, I know expectancy is a hard one for a lot of people. It's like, you mean expectations?
Also hard to say, a bit hard to say too.
Yeah, well, let's practice that one. Say it 3 times every day. Yeah. So expectancy is such a great word, and it's a term of phrase, or a term of art in social sciences, and I hope you'll adopt it because it's a very powerful term. It is not expectations. Expectations is your anticipation of something happening, not because you've done anything. It could be your birthday, so of course you expect to get presents, or it's a holiday, or it's New Year's, you expect somebody to say Happy New Year, or it's the morning you expect the sun to come out, or to get light. That's expectation. Expectancy is the anticipation of your desired outcomes based on your belief in 3 things: your ability to take action, to choose the right action to take at the right time, and to apply the necessary effort to produce the outcomes you value and want. So it's your belief in your abilities that are based both on your past experiences and your confidence in being able to carry out tasks in the future that will produce the outcomes you want. So high expectancy enables you to answer a big yes to the question: can I do it? And will I get the outcome I want?
Yeah, and the way I like to think about expectancy is I like to visualize a little kid just standing there saying, I can do this, in his head, and believing that, and that's how I picture expectancy.
Absolutely.
Now let's talk about value. What about value? How does that play into the equation?
Well, so value is how much you enjoy doing the task, how important it is for you to achieve the result, and how much you'll enjoy the reward from completing the task and experiencing the outcome. So whereas expectancy answers the can I do it question, value answers the why do it, or how meaningful is this to me question. So when you value doing the task, even when you find it hard or distasteful, it can offset the temptation to procrastinate. On the other hand, you're more likely to procrastinate when the value of doing the task is lower.
And yeah, and this value is so interesting because you can really manage it. Part of the way you can manage it is through mindset.
Absolutely.
Just putting different value on it in your head.
Absolutely. So much depends on perspective. And that's one of the things I think that steers people wrong is we think, oh, we need the tip or the technique or the app without appreciating that we have that resource at hand to transform how we see things. It's literally how we see things and that mindset, as you've mentioned.
So in the equation, expectancy and value is on the numerator side of the equation, on the top of the side of the equation. In the denominator, we have impulsiveness and delay. So let's talk about impulsiveness. That's easy to understand. Impulsiveness. So how does it apply to procrastination?
Okay, great question. So impulsiveness refers to your tendency to get distracted and pulled away from the task, and your ability or inability to stay focused. So impulsivity is activated in the context of several different things happening. It's either you have strong, intense cravings for something other than the task, there are distractions, interruptions, or you have some indecision. The tasks that you are required to do just have too many things apart, too many moving parts, or they aren't predictable, organized into routines. Another way of impulsiveness can strike is ignoring what you have to do, either actively or passively, by doing unimportant tasks. Impulsiveness is also related to low physical or mental energy due to lack of sleep or nutrition or exercise or general well-being. And finally, temptations that impulsiveness is a function of falling for temptations or giving into temptations that seem irresistible. Why? Because they're easily within reach, they're intense and attractive. So think about, saying, I'm going to diet right now, walking past Cinnabon, who has used science and neuroscience to plan exactly where they need to start emitting that cinnamon aroma to hook you. And so it's easy within reach. You pass Cinnabon, you have intense and intense desire, and that Cinnabon is really attractive. So impulsivity then will drive you to say, I'll diet tomorrow, but not today.
Yeah, impulsivity is, the strong, intense craving, the distractions, interruptions, and easily within reach. I mean, this is what our smartphones are built in with. These are baked into the actual design of the apps and the phone to want to get you to use those instead of doing whatever you're doing. And that's one of the I think the key things to be able to use is like low-hanging fruit to be able to utilize in this equation is to deal with that phone, put it away, turn it off, move it out of the room.
Absolutely. I think and in relationship to that example of Cinnabon, I think we have a lot to be thankful for that smartphone makers haven't figured out how to emit aromas yet. That would make it so impossible for us to put it in a different room, right? Imagine if your phone just, as soon as you put it away, started emitting that delicious, warm, sweet cinnamon smell. You'd never give it up.
Yeah, there's some even research in that with where the phone just even being off or in silent mode and in your vicinity also distracts you and keeps you from being able to stay focused on the task at hand, and which is, I think, is just incredible because the cravings are so strong that even just the presence of it without even looking at it is enough to take you out of your focus.
Absolutely. In fact, there's a social scientist, and I cannot remember her name, but published several studies within the last few years that indicated that when people are having conversations and their phones are on silent, but on the table, the fact that the phones could vibrate, or maybe they're not silent, but they could vibrate, they're present, it reduces the depth of conversation because people unconsciously anticipate being interrupted or being of lower priority than whatever may come through the phone. That's a visual cue. It's our nervous system reacting instantly to that cue.
Yeah. So we're not giving a lot of prescriptions in this episode, but the phone is just low hanging fruit. So if you want to really deal with procrastination, the phone is a great place to start.
Yeah.
All right. So we went through, now we've gone through the expectancy and the value in the numerator. And then the denominator, we've gone through impulsiveness. And now finally, delay.
Right.
What about the last element, delay, Deborah?
So delay refers to the length of time it takes you to get the reward for completing the task. So delay makes me think of going on a trip with little kids who ask almost from the start, are we there yet? So delay is a result of the task being too big or taking too long to complete, goals that are too vague or abstract, goals that are too far away or distant, or rewards that come far into the future. So it's just, you're not getting the payoff soon enough. It's mostly soon enough. It's not a matter of big enough because our brain usually doesn't know the difference between a big reward and a small reward. It only knows reward, yum, yum. So it's not hard to see how the equation works. The greater your expectancy, the more you value the outcome the task produces, the more you're motivated and driven to complete the task. You're less likely to act impulsively in the interest of quick rewards, so the likelihood of procrastination goes down. Now, if you want to get more things done on time and crush procrastination, the equation is simple. Increase expectancy and value while driving down impulsiveness and delay. And in practical terms, this means boosting your belief that you have what it takes to succeed and making the outcome more attractive, reducing or eliminating distracting temptations, and reducing the time it takes to get a reward, even a small one.
That's worth repeating, because that's the equation in a nutshell, written in plain language. So that's boosting your belief that you have what it takes to succeed. That's the expectancy. Making the outcome more attractive, which is the value. Then reducing or eliminating distracting temptations, obviously, that is the impulsiveness. And then finally, reducing the time it takes to get the reward, and that's the delay.
Exactly. Yeah, simple equation. And it's simple equation. It might be a little harder to put into practice, but I think if you really open your eyes and are attentive, notice, you'll see so many opportunities for doing all of those things.
So give me an example.
So, for example, if you value being healthy and your expectancy is high in terms of your ability to get enough exercise, eat the right amount of fruits and veggies, and get adequate sleep to produce the health you want, and you reduce distractions while savoring and celebrating even small wins, then doing what it takes to be healthy may not be so hard. But if your expectancy and the value of the outcome goes down, then it's easy to be impulsive, get distracted, and go for the quick rewards of procrastination. So, for example, if it's easy to meet up with friends for a drink and dinner right after work at a local restaurant bar, then it may be harder to get exercise and pound down your broccoli and brown rice. So the point is, procrastination is the result of a single interaction of multiple factors, low expectancy and value, coming up against impulsiveness and the delay in getting the reward. So that, brings in a point that simple fixes, such as a time management app or SMART goals, aren't enough to address the complexity of this interaction, no matter how basic it seems to be. So, Glen, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Glen, I have a question for you. How do each of these let's put this to the test. How do each of the four factors play into your own on-time performance, or maybe your procrastination?
Yeah. So I was thinking as you were talking, one of the areas that I think about in trying to get to bed on time as a thing where you could be procrastinating and going to bed because it's finally got your me time there, and the reward for the getting a good night's sleep is 8 hours away when you wake up and you feel great. But if you procrastinate and you go to bed later and later and later, you don't get that reward. So the question is, how do you, just as you said, how do you bring that reward closer? And doing a lot of things like making, getting the nice comfy blankets and sheets, and having a nice candle there, and really savoring that me wind down time brings that reward closer to the time I need it, which is in the evening. And that stimulates all the five senses. And I think that's a great way to bring just use one part of that equation and bring the reward closer.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic example because it's not about thinking, or it's not intellectual. It really triggers or touches on one of our principal animal drivers, pleasure. So if you want to drive up value and reward, make it more pleasurable. So as you mentioned, the comfy PJs, the yummy warm blankets or whatever, that candle. Yeah, it's all pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. And we're animals. We go for it.
Yeah, and then from again, impulsivity is, I set a alarm for me it's at 8:30 at night. It depends on when you like to go to bed, but I don't go to bed at 8:30 at night. But my point is that I put that phone away, put the phone to bed, and plug it in, so that way it's plugged in outside the bedroom, and now it's done for the night. I'm no longer using that, and that takes away that impulsivity to go do at least at one thing of impulsivity, which is the phone, which is a major driver.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then I think we've talked in the past about how to actually indulge in guilty pleasures and overcome
Yes.
procrastination. So I know you've told me some stories, examples from your own life. Can you share those?
Yeah, well, there's, everyone has a guilty pleasure television show. Everyone has their guilty pleasure reality show, which is of no use. It's junk food television. And so anytime I'm watching that, that there's some guilt that you're saying, like, I shouldn't, there's no value to this. I shouldn't be really watching this. But it's fun. And so I think pairing that with something that I would also procrastinate on, which is like, for example, doing laundry, which can be boring and tedious. I'm just not seeing the value in it. So by pairing that boring activity with the guilty pleasure of watching the TV show that I is my guilty pleasure, then it does a couple of things, which is interesting. One, it eliminates the guilt of watching that guilty pleasure show, because I'm actually doing something productive that I need to be doing. So it mashes, I don't know, you have to break that down, mashes the value of doing the laundry differently, because I get to have the reward of the guilty pleasure TV show. I think it's playing with the value and the delay of reward part of the equation. What would you say?
Yeah, exactly. And I love that actually you get two rewards. You get the immediate pleasure of the guilty pleasure of the TV, and you get the delayed reward of having done the laundry. So that's cool. That's a great example of delivering the reward sooner, so you get the reward, so you get the reward on an immediate reward on the way to a delayed reward. I had a very similar, well, I don't know about similar, but yeah, something like that, where I have a little bit, like 10 grams of chocolate in the early afternoon, and I had a task to do, and I thought to myself, I'll give myself a reward for doing the task. I'll have my 10 grams of chocolate after I do the task. And then I realized, well, why don't I give myself just a little boost. So I said, I'll start off by having 5 grams of chocolate. 5 grams is a very tiny bit. 5 grams of chocolate right now, just to sweeten the
Bring the
deal.
reward. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't really reward, but it was giving myself a little pleasure. So the impulsiveness of going off and going, forget this, I'll do it later, and then I'll eat my chocolate. It was like, okay, you can have it now, then go do the task. It worked. It was so weird because I recognized that it was bookending with pleasure that task I had to do. And it worked great. Haven't really unpacked it or reverse engineer it yet, but I was very conscious of, okay, let me have a little bit now, and then I'll go do the task. That's my reward for committing to doing the task. And then I'll reward myself for having done the task. So I think the bottom line with the procrastination equation is there are 4 variables: that expectancy, value, impulsiveness, and reward. You can play with them in all different ways in every context you find yourself in. So keep it in mind, play with it, and see what works for you for each context you may find yourself in.
Well, thank you, Deborah. That's a fantastic and great place for us to wrap up. And I want to thank everyone for listening. Now we want to hear from you. How will you use what you just heard today? Please leave a comment below. And while you're down there, feel free to comment on other people's comments. That's how we generate a community of helpful ideas and suggestions. I also want to let everyone know to check out BeYourOwnBestCoach.com, where you can find a collection of programs and action guides to help you accelerate your career and boost your well-being, including the ultimate guide to getting things done without procrastinating. And also the Piers Steel equation. We detail that in a blog post within the ultimate guide. So be sure to check that out at BeYourOwnBestCoach.com. Thanks again for listening, and stay well.